The decision for men to withdraw from the modern dating arena is not a sudden reactionary move born of spite or a genuine aversion to partnership. It is, rather, the culmination of a long and painful process of recognition, the slow, sobering awakening to a consistent and draining pattern. For years, the cultural script directed men to offer themselves up as perpetual providers of emotional and material currency. They were told that love was a transaction requiring endless investment, to give more empathy, to prove more worth, to bend more willingly to shifting expectations. This constant expenditure was framed as the necessary price of admission for intimacy and loyalty, a test of their value as partners. Yet, returns on this exhaustive investment were consistently catastrophic. Instead of secure connection, men encountered betrayal. In place of mutual respect, they faced disdain. And when they inevitably slipped, showing a moment of vulnerability, a crack in the facade of perfect strength, they were met with abandonment. The pattern became unmistakably clear. The more one gave, the more was expected, and the threshold for failure became ever more precarious. The goal of a secure reciprocal relationship seemed to recede further with every effort made to reach it. This led to the pivotal realization that the problem was not a lack of effort or quality on their part, but the fundamental nature of the game itself. The rules were not just difficult. They were inherently fluid, designed to be unwinnable. The games, the hot and cold behavior, the unspoken tests, the constant need to prove oneself anew each day were not a pathway to love, but a cycle of exhaustion. They functioned not to filter for the best partner, but to maintain a state of anxious competition and control. Consequently, walking away is reframed not as an admission of defeat, but as the most intelligent and strength-based strategy available. It is the understanding that the only way to win a rigged game is to reject the premise entirely. To stop playing is to reclaim one's energy, sanity, and self-worth from a system designed to drain it. This strategic withdrawal is an act of self-preservation, a conscious choice to stand alone in truth rather than to drown in the lies of a broken dynamic. It is the first and most crucial step toward a life built on authentic foundation. It's not shifting sand. The modern dating landscape has transformed into a theater of illusions, a carefully curated performance where perception consistently trumps reality. At the heart of this dynamic is a series of fundamental contradictions that create an impossible labyrinth for men to navigate. Women often articulate a desire for stability, for a grounded and reliable partner who offers a safe harbor from the chaos of the world. Yet, in practice, the excitement of unpredictability and the thrill of emotional turbulence are frequently mistaken for passion, leading to stable partners being overlooked in favor of chaotic ones who provide a roller coaster of intense feelings. This dichotomy is just one example of a broader pattern where stated desires rarely align with revealed preferences, creating a confusing and often disheartening experience for men who believe they are operating in good faith. This environment is exacerbated by the pervasive influence of digital platforms, which have fundamentally altered the psychology of choice. Social media and dating apps create an illusion of infinite options, feeding a constant stream of comparisons in what if scenarios. A woman no longer just has the real, flawed, present man in front of her. She has a curated gallery of thousands of others at her fingertips, profiles showcasing perfect lives, perfect bodies, and perfect relationships that are, without exception, mirages. This conditions a mindset of perpetual upgrading, where a man is not evaluated for his intrinsic worth or character, but is instead stacked against an impossible fantasy. He isn't competing with other real men. He is competing with idealized algorithms and highlight reels, a battle that cannot be won. Within this framework, men have come to understand their designated role. They are not partners in a mutual endeavor, but pawns in a game of emotional chess. The rules of this game are unwritten, constantly shifting, and exclusively favor the player, not the played. The common tactics, such as deliberate distancing to incite anxiety, issuing contradictory demands to create no-win scenarios, or offering intermittent reinforcement through bursts of affection, followed by withdrawal or not conscious strategies. Of every woman, but often instinctual behaviors reinforced by a culture that rewards them with attention. However, the outcome is the same, regardless of intent. These actions are mechanisms of control, designed to test a man's frame, his emotional fortitude, and the degree of his investment. The ultimate revelation for men is that this game is structurally designed to be endless. There is no final level, no ultimate achievement that unlocks a state of secure, game-free love. The moment one test is passed, another, more subtle challenge appears. The moment a man proves his loyalty, his ambition might be questioned. The moment he demonstrates strength, his vulnerability is tested. This creates a state of perpetual trial, an exhausting performance where a man's worth is always pending, never fully confirmed. The finish line is always moved, ensuring he remains in a state of striving, proving, and spending energy. Recognizing this architecture is the key to liberation. It reveals that the pursuit itself is the trap, and that the only way to win is to reject the fundamental premise that his value needs to be constantly proven in someone else's arbitrary arena. The journey for every man leads to a sobering, almost universal truth. His value in a relationship is often conditional, based not on the core of his character, but on a transient and fickle metric: how he makes a woman feel. This is a precarious foundation upon which to build anything lasting, for emotions are by their very nature ephemeral. They shift with the wind of mood, external influence, and internal narrative. A man can dedicate years to building a life of provision, safety, and genuine care, constructing a shared world brick by brick, only to see it discarded in an instant when her feelings change. The reason given might be a lack of spark or a need to find herself. But the underlying message is clear. His tangible contributions and unwavering presence are rendered null by a fleeting emotional state. This reveals a painful reality that what was mistaken for loyalty was merely convenience. A comfortable arrangement that holds only as long as the emotional weather remains fair. This realization, while initially jarring, is not the end, but the beginning of a profound reclamation. It is the catalyst for a massive and deliberate redirect of energy. The mental real estate once wholly occupied by decoding mixed signals, analyzing the subtext of a text message, ruminating on a sudden coldness, or crafting the perfect response. To pass an unspoken test, this enormous cognitive load is suddenly freed. The hours spent in anxious performance, trying to mold oneself into an image that might finally earn approval, are given back. This is not an act of bitterness, but one of stunning clarity. It is the understanding that this energy is the most valuable currency he possesses, and he has been investing it in a venture that offers no return. This reclaimed energy finds a new, fertile home in the self. It is poured into the gym, transforming not just a body, but discipline and self-respect. It is channeled into career and craft, building tangible wealth and competence that cannot be erased by a shift in someone's mood. It is invested in purpose, missions, hobbies, brotherhood, and goals that provide authentic fulfillment and progress. This building is not done for an audience. It is a quiet, determined process of becoming whole unto oneself. The man discovers a profound sense of peace. That comes from this self-directed focus. It is the peace of no longer being an actor on a stage under harsh and critical lights, but of being the architect of his own world, building to his own blueprint. This peace is addictive and empowering. It stands in stark contrast to the dizzying highs and crushing lows of the emotional roller coaster he once volunteered to ride. The stability of a day spent building his own empire, however small, provides a deeper satisfaction than the fleeting dopamine hit of a complimentary text or a moment of earned approval. He learns that validation sourced internally is infinitely more reliable and satisfying than any amount externally granted. This creates a new center of gravity. His sense of worth becomes internally generated, making him immune to the manipulations that once easily swayed him. He is no longer hungry for scraps from another's table because he has learned to feast on the bounty of his own harvest. This self-sufficiency is the ultimate reclamation. transforming him from a desperate participant in a rigged game into a sovereign individual, whole and complete on his own terms. The collective decision by men to disengage from the established dynamics of dating creates a seismic shift in the social landscape, one that fundamentally alters the balance of power. For years, the entire structure was predicated on a reliable, constant male participation. The system of tests, mixed signals, and intermittent validation only held power because it reliably produced a desired reaction, the chase. Women, whether consciously or not, operated with the security of knowing that a period of ignoring a man would be met with increased effort on his part. A moment of disapproval would be met with frantic attempts to regain favor. It was a form of emotional capitalism that functioned flawlessly because the demand for female attention was infinite, and men were willing to pay any price. When men stop playing, this entire economy collapses. The ignored text is met with serene silence. The test of loyalty is met with a calm departure. The attempt to incite jealousy fails spectacularly, as the man is too focused on his own purpose to notice. This creates a void, a sudden and deafening silence, where there was once the predictable noise of pursuit and negotiation. This silence is where the shift occurs. The tools of manipulation become useless without a subject to manipulate. The power those tools once held is revealed to have been entirely borrowed from the man's own investment in desperation. He withdraws that investment. The power reverts back to him. This withdrawal forces a necessary and often uncomfortable reckoning. Women who have grown accustomed to an endless stream of validation and options begin to experience its scarcity. The social media post that once garnered 100 eager replies now receives a handful. The hard-to-get act no longer reels in a suitor but simply ensures she is left alone. This is the moment the illusion of infinite choice shatters, replaced by the reality of her own actions. She is compelled to sit with the consequences of having discarded good men for fantasies, of having prioritized the thrill of the game over the substance of connection. She realizes that the loyal, capable men she once tested are no longer waiting in her orbit. They have moved on, building fulfilling lives without her, too invested in their own missions to look back. The supreme irony in this entire recalibration is that the act of walking away, the ultimate rejection of the game, is the very thing that generates genuine respect. While a woman may enjoy the attention and the feeling of control that comes from a man she can effortlessly bend, she can never truly respect him. Respect is not born from submission, but from strength and boundaries. The man who refuses to engage in nonsense, who calmly observes the attempted manipulation and simply chooses to remove himself from the situation, demonstrates a strength of character that is undeniable. He communicates that his time, energy, and peace are too valuable to be spent on drama. This commands a respect that no amount of compliant chasing ever could. He transforms in her eyes from a willing participant, a pawn, into a man with unshakable principles. This respect may not always translate into reconciliation or love, but it irrevocably changes the dynamic. It proves that true leverage is not found in playing the game better, but in possessing the strength to leave the table altogether. The ultimate awakening for the modern man is the profound realization that his time, energy, and focus constitute his most valuable and non-renewable resources. Life is not a dress rehearsal, and every moment spent anxiously awaiting a text, deconstructing a mixed signal, or performing emotional gymnastics to earn a fleeting glance of approval is a moment stolen from his actual potential. This is the core of the final transformation, a shift from seeing a relationship as the ultimate goal to understanding that his primary mission is the building of his own kingdom. He is no longer a supplicant begging to be chosen. He has become the sovereign, whole and complete unto himself, who chooses from a position of strength and discernment. This is not a rejection of partnership, but a redefinition of it. He will no longer partner from a place of need, but from a place of want, seeking an ally, not a master. This sovereign state is characterized by an unwavering focus on building a life of unshakable substance. The mental bandwidth once consumed by relational drama is now channeled into tangible progress. He is stacking money, not stacking apologies. He is building discipline in the gym and in his daily habits, not building excuses for someone else's behavior. He is expanding his vision for his future, not narrowing it to fit the expectations of a partner. This process of relentless self-investment creates a man who is calm, centered, and purpose-driven. His identity is no longer external, sourced from another's validation. It is internally generated, forged in the fires of his own discipline and achievements. This makes him emotionally independent and therefore immune to the old tactics of manipulation. You cannot control a man who is not playing for your approval. He is playing for a legacy. This radical self-ownership is the final and most powerful checkmate. It completely inverts the traditional dynamic. The woman who is accustomed to being the prize suddenly encounters a man who sees himself as one. This is inherently and irresistibly attractive. While she may have enjoyed the feeling of control that came with a man she could easily sway, that same pliability eventually breeds contempt. What she truly craves, often against her own programmed instincts, is a man whose core cannot be moved by her games. A man who possesses the strength to walk away communicates a deep sense of self-worth that is more compelling than any amount of flowers, gifts, or desperate compliments. His silence speaks louder than another man's promises. His peace is more attractive than another man's drama. He doesn't need to play hard to get. He is hard to get because he is occupied with matters of genuine importance. Therefore, the ultimate victory is not in finding a partner, but in achieving a state. A being where a partner is a welcome addition, not a necessary completion. It is the understanding that a man without a woman is not incomplete. He is free to create, to build, to focus, without distraction. And when he does choose to let someone in, it is from a place of absolute clarity. He will choose the woman who respects his peace, who aligns with his purpose, and who adds value to his already fulfilling life. He will recognize the one who has also abandoned the games, not because he needs her to, but because he simply won't settle for anything less. This is how the game is truly ended, not by winning it, but by evolving beyond the very need for it. The man who builds himself into a king does not lose a queen. He naturally attracts one, or he reigns contentedly alone. In both outcomes, he wins.